Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening's Planning and Land Use Committee meeting. Let's start off with here. Firstly, we acknowledge with respect that we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen speaking peoples and are honored to have the opportunity to build strong working relationships with the people of Songhees and Swepsum nations. I'll call this meeting to order. Approval of the agenda. Looking for approval of the agenda.
Yeah, I'll approve the agenda.
Thank you. No seconder required. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Agenda approved. Adoption of minutes. Looks like a previous meeting, September the 3rd. Someone could move that, please.
I will.
James, the professional mover. Thank you. No seconder required. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Public participation. So this is the time for members of the public to come forward and address the committee. And we are a little bit unique today because we're set up for our budget season here. So I would ask if anyone wants to come forward and address the committee, do so now. And technically you are limited to 2 minutes, but we're very lenient on that. So come on forward. We don't bite. Oh, that's right. Yeah. You're welcome to sit, stand, do whatever you wish. And this is fairly informal. And so if you go ahead and state your name and just tell us why you're here and then go for it. And Annalise, we've forgiven the 2-minute timing because she's going to speak on behalf of the group of them.
Thank you. My name is Mairi and I live at 408 Tamarack Road, and I'm here regarding the proposed development of 396 Tamarack Road that LEDA Construction has put forward for a property that for a project that is to be built in our neighborhood that our residents are requesting that you reconsider allowing this project to go forward. It's a proposed development of 66 6-story condominium in a neighborhood of single family dwellings of either townhouses, row homes, or 2-story buildings. I'm just going to read this letter that I will send the council later, just because it's more succinct than me trying to. So we're here to express our strong opposition proposed by this condominium development in our neighborhood. While we understand the need for additional housing in our city, we believe that this project will have a detrimental impact in our neighborhood. The proposed development is not suitable for our area. Our neighborhood is comprised of a quiet cul-de-sac and are all residential use. The area is private and quiet and is contrary to commercial and is contrary from the commercial high density zoning of Colwood Corners. The 6-story condominium would have a massive detrimental effect on the attributes of our neighborhood and our homes. The increase in population density would result in a significant increase in traffic. While we understand the developer has put 37 underground spots in his plans, it is realistic to expect the additional residents and visitors will park on the streets, causing a great impact of accessing our own properties and the safety of pedestrians and the children in the area. The 6-story condominium will greatly impact our privacy and the ability to enjoy our properties and solar access, specifically my home and the home next to me. Right now we get sun at about between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning. If this goes up, we'll probably won't see it till well afternoon. People living in the upper 3 levels of this building will likely be able to see straight into our properties, and no privacy screens that the developer installs will be helpful for that. Privacy is to be protected under the sections of 25.1 and 25.5, 26.15 of the official community plan. The type of housing being proposed, we feel is simply not keeping in the character of our neighborhood. The neighborhood is comprised of 1- and 2-story homes and townhouses, and it won't fit into the quiet and private neighborhood that our residents currently value. We feel that townhouses or row housing would be far more suitable for this space. Finally, we're concerned about the negative impact of the development will have on our property values as well. It will be difficult to maintain property values with a large condominium towering over our homes and yards. So in conclusion, we strongly urge you to reconsider the proposed housing development that LIDA Construction has put forward. While we recognize the incredible need for affordable housing, this project, we feel, simply is not the right fit for our neighborhood. We thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And sorry, did we get your address as well?
Yes, I
Okay,
live at
perfect.
408 Tamarack Road,
Perfect.
which is just, it's right next door to the
Gotcha.
proposed
And
site.
just for the committee's reference, this is not on the agenda tonight. So this will be on an upcoming agenda.
Mhm.
And I do encourage you as a group of residents to remain engaged. As I mentioned, the planning and land use committees post all of our agendas a week before. So you should have lots of opportunity to plan. And thank you for coming out. Is there anyone else in your group that has anything to add at all? Are we good?
I think that's good.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing us to come.
You bet. So Cole, unless there's anyone else that has something to say about anything for that matter, and no one online, staff? Thank you. New business. If I'd like to invite Mairi Bosomworth to come forward, and Kelsea. And this pertains to the rezoning for 3698 Metchosin Road.
Okay, good evening, committee. So we are hoping to have a slightly different format for tonight's meeting. We do have two applications before you this evening. They're very interlinked and depend on each other. So we are hoping to do the presentations upfront and then save discussion for after the presentation. So I will present on 3698 Metchosin. Kelsea will then present on 499 Royal Bay Drive. And then Ben and his team will be presenting. So if that is okay with committee.
Specifically, you want to get it all out and then come back to questions, or each presentation, then some questions, or?
We're hoping to do all the presentations and then discussion.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, so as I mentioned, I will be presenting on 3698 Metchosin Road. So this is a joint OCP amendment and rezoning application. So the address is 3698 Metchosin Road. It is zoned AR1 in the land use bylaw, and it is designated as neighborhood in the OCP. The property is 10.4 acres in size, or 4.2 hectares. The property is bisected by Metchosin Road. It's not shaded in this map here, but that portion that is on the east side of Metchosin Road is actually a part of the property. And historically, the property has been used by the city for storage of materials, and the city no longer has a use for it. So the proposal for tonight, this application is part of the overall city land swap process, is what we've been calling it. We've received direction from council through a number of resolutions to proceed with this application. So the application is to include the subject property within the Latoria South sub-area plan as Area 11. In addition, the proposal is to rezone the subject property from AR1 to CD28 and add Area 11. And this is to enable an additional 500 residential units within Latoria South. The proposal also includes the subdivision of the subject property into two parcels. Right now it is one. And then the portion of the property on the east side of Metchosin Road will remain in ownership by the city, and the use of that land will be determined at a later date. The inclusion of the subject property will continue to support the growth and diversity of the Royal Bay neighborhood as a whole. So this is just a summary of the conditions of the city land swap process. So this is a really exciting opportunity for the city in order to achieve a number of parks and recreation objectives. All of the conditions listed here are interlinked and do depend on each other for the overall success of this process. So the subject property must be rezoned with including an OCP amendment to enable the 500 additional units. The property will then be sold to Gablecraft, who will then sell the Quarry Park expansion lands to the city. We will also receive a $2 million cash donation to go towards the building of a community center. And then another condition is the rezoning of 499 Royal Bay Drive, which is what Kelsea will be presenting on. And that also includes an expansion of Promenade Park by 2.2 acres. So getting into the proposed OCP amendment. So the Latoria South Sub-Area Plan was adopted in 2020 and includes the lands identified on the map before you. So it's generally land south of Latoria Road and west of Metchosin Road. 3698 Metchosin Road was never to be contemplated as part of the Latoria South Sub-Area Plan. The sub-area plan is split into 3 areas. So the commons is shown as pink, the transition area is shown as orange, and then Quarry is shown as yellow on the map. The original density for the sub-area plan was approximately 2,100 units. However, at the sole discretion of the City of Colwood, the maximum number of units could be increased in the future based on periodic traffic studies. So the proposal is to enable an additional 500 units within Latoria South to equal 2,600 units. Applicable updates to our traffic models and subsequent TIAs have supported this increase in density and shows that the road network does have capacity to carry additional density. There is a density covenant that is registered on all of the lands within Latoria South. So the purpose of that density covenant is essentially to track the number of units that have been utilized of the 2,100. So that density covenant will be amended to reflect the additional 500 units for a total of 2,600 units for all of Latoria South. So the proposal for those additional 500 units is to be included within all of Latoria South, not just exclusive to Area 11. Density within Latoria South was never considered by area. It was always just total. So the proposal is to include the subject property within the transition area, which is shown in orange. And this is to enable a variety of uses to maximize the best use of the land of Area 11. We are proposing to include a range of housing types and other institutional, commercial, and non-residential uses. Proposed heights in this area will be up to 6 stories and an FAR of 3.0. And this is really just increasing the buildable area of Latoria South. It's really just extending the area of development of Royal Bay. So next, getting into is the rezoning of the property. So as I mentioned, the proposal is to rezone the property from AR1 to CD28. So currently all of Latoria South is zoned CD28. And currently there are 10 areas. Each area has its own list of permitted uses and zoning regulations. So Area 11 will be added to the CD28 zone in the same way with its own list of permitted uses and zoning regulations. Examples of permitted uses are assembly and entertainment uses, bakery, brew house, hotel, and a range of residential uses as well. And the intention of this is just to create some flexibility and to allow realized development to be market driven at the time. If units are built outside of Area 11, they will be subject to existing zoning regulations depending on what area it is in. So essentially, whatever development you are seeing being built in Royal Bay right now is what will be continued to be built as part of this expansion. So these are just some conceptual drawings before you. This is just showing what development could look like in Area 11. Of course, this is conceptual in nature, but does just show a commercial focus, a townhouse focus, and an apartment focus. But we will not know the exact proposed development until the time of a development permit is submitted. So next is getting into the Parks and Recs objectives that the city is allowed to achieve or advance through this process. This is something that's certainly very exciting for the city. So starting with the expansion of Quarry Park. So Quarry Park, the existing size is 4.53 hectares in size. And through this process, the city is planned to acquire 1.93 hectares of park. So that's suggesting that Quarry Park will reach the criteria of a community park, which has to be a minimum of 5 hectares. So that's a big objective for us to achieve as a city. And we are able to do that by ourselves by acquiring this land. We don't need to partner with other corporations such as West Shore Parks and Rec or the school district. We are just doing it through this land swap process. A number of other objectives that we're looking to achieve through this process is including inclusive play elements in the playground, having structured and covered areas in the park, and then further programming as part of Quarry Park. The finalized programming for Quarry Park is still to be determined. So a final update to the Latoria South sub-area plan will be coming once that programming is finalized. So once the types of court athletic fields are finalized, it will come forward at that time. So communication for this application. So a sign was posted on the property. The application was posted on our website. We did hold an open house for this application at City Hall on October 23rd. And there is a What We Heard document that's attached to the staff report. The public was able to speak at tonight's meeting during public input, and then they are invited to come to council. We are scheduled to go to council on November 25th for first and second reading of the amending bylaws, so the public is welcome to come there. And then we do have a proposed public hearing in December. Prior to the public hearing, notices will be going out to owners surrounding the subject property, and there will be ads posted in the newspaper as well. So the staff recommendation tonight is that committee recommend to council that 3698 Metchosin Road is rezoned to CD28 and included within the Latoria South sub-area plan, and to enable an increase of 500 dwelling units. And there were a number of conditions that are identified in the staff report. Your options this evening are to approve the staff report, request staff to provide additional information, that the application be denied, or that committee provides another option for council consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Mairi. Over to Kelsea.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair and Mari. So agenda item 5.2 is a text amendment rezoning to the RBCD1 zone for 499 Royal Bay Drive. This application runs concurrently with the rezoning for 3698 Metchosin Road to facilitate the city land swap process. So the property is 2.2 hectares or 5.5 acres in size and is currently an undeveloped forested site. The property is zoned RBCD1 and is considered the first phase of the Royal Bay development. The surrounding area is substantially built out with the exception of 499 Royal Bay Drive. The lot abuts Promenade Park and was originally identified as an elementary school site but has since been released by School District 62. The applicant is proposing a text amendment to the RBCD1 zone to increase the permitted detached residential unit count from 119 to 130. This would enable an 11-lot single-family subdivision. The proposal also reduces the permitted attached housing unit count from 103 to 96. So this overall results in a net increase of 4 units. The proposal also includes the expansion of Promenade Park by 0.915 hectares or 2.2 acres. A detailed review of the subdivision in accordance with the RBCD1 zone will be conducted when an application is submitted. The property is designated as neighborhood in the OCP. The neighborhood designation supports ground-oriented detached single-family homes up to 3 stories. The designation is also expected to maintain the character and scale of the existing residential area while increasing housing diversity. Other policies include improving the public realm for pedestrians and creating direct walking connections through residential areas. So Promenade Park is designated as a neighborhood park in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which responds to localized outdoor recreational needs of nearby residents. Colwood currently has a below average neighborhood parkland area to population ratio. To meet the recommended 0.5 hectares to 1,000 resident ratio, Colwood needs to increase its neighborhood parkland by 7.8 hectares, and this application is proposing an increase of 0.915 hectares. This application also facilitates the almost 2-hectare expansion of Quarry Park, which achieves multiple goals of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So a breakdown of the type of green space is provided above. The applicant will formally dedicate 0.915 hectares of parkland, which is 41% of the site, and a future walkway connecting the new road to the existing Portwell Place. An 8-meter wide tree preservation covenant over private property has also been proposed, totaling just over 1,600 square meters. This tree protection covenant will restrict tree removal to ensure a buffer between existing dwellings and the new subdivision. The financial considerations for this application are included in the overall city land swap process outlined earlier by Mari. So this includes the rezoning of 3698 Metchosin Road, an expansion of Quarry and Promenade Park, and a financial contribution to the future community center. The applicant will also be responsible for obtaining a tree management permit in accordance with the urban forest bylaw prior to any sort of site preparation. As part of any single family lot subdivision, the applicant will be responsible for applicable DCC and CAC contributions at the time of subdivision. So development notification signs have been posted on site, one facing Royal Bay Drive, one on Portwell Place, and one on Promenade Crescent. Postcards and newspaper ads will be sent prior to considering first and second reading of the amending bylaw, scheduled for November 25th. The applicant also hosted 2 open house engagements, and the summary is included in the staff report. So staff recommend the amending bylaws be considered for readings, subject to the conditions outlined in the development agreement, including the registration of that section 219 tree protection covenant, the formal registration of parkland dedication, and some form and character considerations as part of the future 11-lot subdivision. So other options committee may wish to consider is the staff recommendation. We can provide more additional information, the application be denied, or committee may provide another option for council consideration. Thank you, and I'm happy to pass it along to Ben and his team.
Thank you. And Ben, and backup. Go ahead and shuffle the mics along so that we can hear everything. It is being broadcast. Thank you.
Great. I'm just going to hand it over to Paul and Barry here to make the presentation. I'm just here to answer questions after.
Good evening. My name is Paul Fensky. I'm a design principal with Placemark Design and Development out of Vancouver. We've been retained by Gablecraft to assist in this work in conjunction with the City of Colwood. And it's great to see Latoria South at this point in its development. I was hired and retained back in 2012 as the original master plan for Royal Bay. And 10 years on, it's great to see that it is truly Colwood's waterfront community and today a bustling neighborhood. I think it's the idea tonight with our presentation is to set within greater context the two rezonings previously discussed by staff. And I think as you look at the images from Royal Bay, you see that since its early days, a gravel pit dating back to the Metchosin pit, in which Emily Carr painted, Royal Bay has certainly evolved to become a bustling mixed-use neighborhood with a diversity of homes, parks, schools, commercial areas. And in fact, Royal Bay is today Colwood's fastest growing neighborhood. And that is, I think, what generates urgency around the opportunity at hand. Because it is a place that so many families call home, there's an opportunity before the APC and council to support the work that's been done by city staff in conjunction with Gablecraft, who's been leading the build out of Royal Bay Vision in transforming the once barren lands into now a community that hundreds of families call home. The Latoria South neighborhood, which is Royal Bay's newest neighborhood, continues to realize this original vision with the addition now of the new elementary school, active recreation park in the form of Quarry Park, as now a community park, as well as the protection of natural areas and the long-awaited completing of the Beach to Mountain Trail connecting Colwood to its waterfront. And it's precisely because Colwood is at the center of this growing region that there's a concern around how do we best meet the needs of this growing population. And in fact, Colwood is leading the region in growth. It is projected to increase by an additional 30% over the next 15 years, with much of the residential growth planned here at Royal Bay and the Beachlands. As mentioned by staff, the city's own Parks and Recreation Plan is looking for a home to supplement the recreation opportunities available in the north at the Wanafuka Rec Center, with now recreation facilities in Colwood South, particularly looking for homes for Upland Community Park, as well as outdoor sports courts, athletic field, and a community center. So as to support this ongoing growth, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan has identified the need for these new facilities. And we believe the right fit is here within Royal Bay itself. As outlined, the opportunity to expand Quarry Park from a neighborhood to a community scale park would allow the addition of these additional facilities, including sports courts, athletic fields, and a community center. Royal Bay is particularly well suited to accommodate these new needs, to meet the needs of the growing community, in part because of its gentle topography, as well as its high pace of current build out. This is where people are living and working, and the opportunity of adding more recreation facilities here will not only serve Royal Bay, but also the surrounding community. With more details, more context for these two important initiatives taking place in conjunction with both the city and Gablecraft, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Barry.
Thank you, Paul. The opportunity at hand with the parallel rezonings is really about an opportunity to do more than the current zoning permits on the lands, both the city lands, the Quarry Park expansion lands, as well as the 499 Royal Bay Drive lands. So it involves 3 parcels, as have been discussed tonight. The first one, highlighted in the light blue in the middle of the slide, is the potential Quarry Park expansion area. The second, the city lands on Metchosin Road, identified with the light blue number 1. And the third are the 499 Royal Bay Drive lands owned by Gablecraft, highlighted in blue at the top end of the screen. The Quarry Park expansion provides the opportunity to significantly expand Quarry Park into a planned community park, increasing its area by approximately 40%, which gives it the space that's needed to accommodate those really land consumptive, big ticket recreation items like a synthetic turf soccer field or multi-sport field and a new community center. The plan that's shown on this slide is a concept that was prepared by Lanark working with the city and has been presented to the public over the summer. And it includes those Parks and Recreation Master Plan implementation actions of new athletic fields, community center with the potential for a 21,000 square foot facility on 2 levels, new outdoor sports courts, and providing additional frontage along Quarry Street, allowing the park to have a greater presence in the neighborhood, as well as more parking access. The city lands located on Metchosin Road, currently designated for rural residential, by including them within the Latoria South sub-area plan, have the opportunity to be connected to sanitary sewer, allowing them to do so much more for the city and the community than they currently are able to do. This is a potential concept that we've done for the city lands. It's technically feasible and market ready. It shows shops and services highlighted in the orange roof forms at the top end of the plan. A really interesting opportunity with the city lands is with their location along the arterial of Metchosin Road. They have the ability to have commercial visibility and access off of Metchosin Road only, and residential access off of a site coming in or a road coming in from the Latoria South neighborhood, preventing rat running through the community by cars from Metchosin Road, but still allowing that pedestrian and cycling permeability to support active transportation. The new permitted proposed zoning would allow for office and mixed uses as well as the new missing middle homes that can contribute to the vibrancy of the community, as well as adding additional taxation and development cost charge benefits for the city of Colwood. Can you get the next slide for me? My clicker's not working. Thank you. The last parcel involved in the parallel rezonings are the Gablecraft lands located on Royal Bay Drive. 5.5 acre parcel historically designated for a school site, which has since been released by the school district, leaving the future of these lands unresolved. The proposal involves dedicating 41% of the site for an expansion of Promenade Park, which is 2.26 acres, as well as an additional 0.4 acres, which would be protected as retained forest buffer between the new and existing homes. The proposal also involves building out 11 single-family homes that are consistent with the existing neighborhood, as opposed to the townhomes that are currently permitted under the zoning. We were here about a week and a half ago for an open house on this project, and one key theme that I certainly heard was the preference for having single-family homes that maintain the existing neighborhood character rather than townhomes on this property. The dedication of land for the Promenade Park expansion would also formalize the existing trail network that's on the site and provide a new neighborhood connector for from Portwell Place to a new cul-de-sac, further supporting active transportation objectives in Royal Bay. So to activate this opportunity and achieve a more complete community in Latoria South and Royal Bay, Gablecraft will contribute the approximately 4.6 acres of land for the Quarry Park expansion, supporting the city's Parks and Recreation Master Plan objectives of a new community center and new outdoor athletic fields, as well as the $2 million contribution to support construction of that new community center. The city provides the 8.7 acres of the city lands off of Metchosin Road, which allows Latoria South to be updated with more homes to support Colwood's housing needs, as well as new employment lands, neighborhood services, and expansion of the commercial tax base. And the path that lies ahead for this is beginning the technical amendments to the sub-area plan, the RBCD1 zone and the CD28 zone, which we are doing this evening. There are further opportunities ahead for public consultation, including the public hearing prior to third reading of the OCP amendment for the city lands, as well as public input that can be provided online for the 499 Royal Bay Drive rezoning. So thank you for the opportunity to explain this proposal this evening.
Thank you so much. Anything to add, Ben, at all?
Mr. Chair, I'm nothing really to add at this point. I think we could just go to questions if you'd like.
Thank you. Anything else from staff at all?
No, we're good to go, Chair. If you got questions, we can push Ben to one side and staff can occupy one side of the table to answer staff questions and proponent can answer. any other
Let me
questions.
ask the first sort of 20,000 foot question for whomever. I get we're dealing with this all in bits and bobs, but can someone provide an overall analysis on how we came to be where we're at here and explain the land swap and all those aspects that are impacting the decision here? I know it's been in the newspaper and I know it's been in minutes enough, but just encapsulate what brought us here today.
Thank you, Chair. It was a complicated process and obviously when you're talking about land and land value, this all started in camera with council. And it was an opportunity that council decided to explore with staff and then see where it could lead. Quarry Park has been part of the Latoria lands development for, I think, inception. And that opportunity to expand that park into something more than just a neighborhood park and into a community park was something that council definitely wanted to move towards. That piece led us to understand the value of that property. So we brought in a private consultant to actually look at the value of the properties, obtain some values, figure out what each land parcel was worth, figure out the economy and economics of the density ask from Royal Bay with regards to that. As part of that process, we looked at consequences of traffic and just a slight clarification. The traffic won't be impacted detrimentally. We do not have the capacity on those roads for future development, just like the rest of Victoria. So it will not solve that problem, but it will not exacerbate that problem. So our road networks, our intersections won't be dramatically impacted by it. Our current infrastructure with regards to water, sewer won't be detrimentally impacted by it. So determining all that value with regards to the land, the density and so on, it was determined through the private consultant that an ask of the city of $2 million from the developer. At our discretion, we currently, through council, are deciding to put it towards the community center, but those $2 million could be changed. It's not regulated that it goes there. Council could put it towards sports fields or something else if that need was more eminent than, say, a community center. And obviously, we'd be seeking grants along the way. So that $2 million might change where it is, but the value of that does not. It should be noted that this property could, the school's SD 62 has released it from their acquiring purposes, but it could be sold to another school to be developed as a school. So that still exists for the proponent. But in this present iteration, he's decided that 11 single family homes meets more with the neighborhood. And I think that's a result of those two previous engagements with the neighborhood prior to the beginning of this process. So I think that kind of sums it up. And then Ben's team can answer anything technically you want to know from their perspective, and certainly from our city guidelines, OCP, various plans. Mairi and Kelsea can be here to answer any questions you have as well.
Thank you. And there's a lot to unpack there, but at its core, there's been a sophisticated land swap deal that's been negotiated by staff and the developer, and many months of work with legal teams and the whole works that brings us here today. And part of that process is the rezoning of these lands. So we're closing in on sort of the final stages of this official land swap, and this is a piece of it. So I'm open to questions from committee, and we can go as far back as we need to on both the agenda items, or if we have questions for the developer, they're here as well. So someone go ahead and kick us off. Thank you, Kathleen.
Question for pretty much anyone who wants to answer this for me. I appreciate your presentations, and I know there's been an immense amount of work from everybody's part. So thank you so much. What I'm trying to ascertain is kind of a little bit of the history with 499 Royal Bay. So has it always been Gablecraft's land and title? Like I'm confused in terms of the elementary school and how that works. And on the other question I have is we've got a fairly lengthy document from one of the landowners, and I'm just trying to understand the history around the parcel that you have. Before it seems to me that it was a group of townhouses, and now the quid pro quo is we will give the city 41% dedicated parkland. The other owners who are concerned, I'm not sure if Gablecraft has seen their submissions, but was there anything that the owners would have been promised in a disclosure statement? We just need to understand the history behind the swap. It makes sense to me, and I'm encouraged to hear that you had an independent consultant look at the value proposition. That's what I actually was going to ask, but that was all answered for me. So I assume that that's all legitimate. But just some of these lingering concerns about, okay, Gablecraft was going to maybe do a school, maybe do townhouses. Now we're going to swap it out. One of the covenants or the promises is we will have parkland and 11 single detached, and it was X number of townhomes before that. And then again, the affected homeowners, what rights or what promises could they possibly have been given? I mean, I do want to respect those concerns. So anything, all of you could give me history
There's a little
wise.
bit of a lot there, but Ben, can we just start with Mairi first, if she wants to, sorry, that was Kelsey.
Thank you, Chair. I think if we keep Ben here for the history of
Okay.
the property,
Go for it.
and then staff can speak to any questions that Ben might create based on his story. Because he'll be the best to answer the history behind the property, and then that might either answer enough questions for you or get some more, and then we can get Mairi and Kelsey to the table.
Thank
Does that
you.
work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. I'll just remind me if I missed any of your question. I'll just start with, there's actually was 3 separate appraisals done. Just for the record, there was actually 3 separate appraisals done in 2 separate engagements. And that was just basically kind of the healthy negotiation, I think, between the parties. And then finally, there was a second round with the 3rd appraisal was completed, which kind of eventually actually kind of basically met in the middle of the previous 2, just for the record of how we ended up at the valuation. But to go into a little bit of the history of the 499 Royal Bay site, it from the perspective of Royal Bay, as from the developer, the landowner perspective, it's been a bit of a nuisance for us. So it literally came with the package of properties. So it's a beautiful piece of land. It's 5.5 acres, forested, second growth. So it's a lovely piece of land with existing trails that are unfortunately signed as public park trails, but are not. It's privately owned. The original Royal Bay master plan, going back to the original land use documents that the city of Colwood has in its records, show this particular site was held as a school site. So in the original master plan and development agreement between the developer and the city at the time was there would be 3 school sites that would be basically designated for a school. So Royal Bay Secondary School was the first, and then basically everything went kind of quiet for a long time. This was the first neighborhood that was developed. So it was developed as single family homes, but all of the homeowners in this neighborhood bought knowing that that was going to be an elementary school. There's existing legal charges on title. There's access easement agreements for 3 homes on the backside. The legal title of the documents is school site easement agreement. So everyone that bought up in this neighborhood really does know what the intent of it was. Maybe there's been a second or third owner by now, and maybe they don't fully understand like the first owner did, but everyone does understand that this was intended as a school site. Now, what's happened since then? We've sold a second school site to the school district down in Royal Bay proper. The school district, Souk School District, elected not to purchase this site. It just didn't fit into their planning horizon or their needs. And so the underlying zoning, other than school site, which we could still sell as a school site to some other school, is the Royal Bay Comprehensive Development 1 zone, which allows single family homes, townhouses, and that's about it other than school. And if we were a private developer other than Gablecraft, who's kind of fixated on our primary business down at Royal Bay, which is keeping us very busy, any other private developer would be highly motivated to take this site through the official community plan designation, which enables single family or townhouse. And, you know, there's rumors running around in the community that our secret plan is actually to develop 40-something townhouses on this site, which is not the case, but it is good math in that if we were to sell the site, which is one of our options was to sell this site off, it's not our core function to do single family like this, kind of more custom, larger lot, single family homes. So we would certainly sell this to another developer to take on. But we were asked by council. So we were working on this other land swap agreement. Council made a resolution directing us to deal with this 499 Royal Bay Drive site. And I agreed to do so. We've gone through an extensive planning process. We've done multiple public open houses, and there has been a huge amount of relief that frankly it's only because we're such a large corporate developer. This is too much of a pain in the ass for us to do. So we're just trying to make a deal with the community. We're doing 11 single family homes. No one opposes it. Everyone thinks, I shouldn't say everyone, probably virtually everyone thinks 11 single family homes and a very large park dedication is very generous as far as the, you know, typical negotiations that go on between the city and a developer. We truly just want to resolve it and move on. So we want to get the land use approval in place for the single family homes. There's concern around the access location, servicing 5 of those homes, and whether it should go on to Portwell or if it should come out at the intersection. So I can certainly understand there's some upset. So it's principally anyway, the 3 homes that directly abut onto the intersection that are most concerned. And I think there are concerns as expressed to us. I can summarize for you. I do want to first say though, that we have overwhelming support for this application as presented. So there is a letter that's been written by one of the residents who's making a number of points. But I think the fact is, and as Barry mentioned to me, at least before the meeting, at multiple open houses now, we've had overwhelming strong support for this exact application as presented. So I had a public open house on July 4th this past summer where we had like 3 options. Like the 3 options were this was option 2. Option 1 was accessing from Portwell Place, and option 3 is like, we'll just sell it. So we had 20-2 in favor of this option, which put the 5 single family homes traffic out directly into the existing intersection. Now, some of the concerns that are raised are around the functioning of that intersection and some perceived safety concerns. He's not here this evening, but he's wrote a whole traffic report, which is part of the public record of the application, is that by adding the 4th leg to this intersection and improving some of the sight lines and making it a 4-way stop, it would become a very high functioning level of service A intersection that would be very safe. And there is the current situation is it's three legs, like 3 existing roads feeding into it with 2 stop signs and significantly overgrown vegetation. So I think there's a concern that the current condition feels unsafe. And so maybe they don't want to sort of add more traffic. Our traffic engineer is assuring us that, in fact, it's 5 houses, which have almost, a very minimal traffic load. And with the significant improvements that we'd make to that intersection as a result of the changes, it would dramatically improve the safety and functioning of that intersection. So I don't believe that there's any historical obligations that have been promised or promises made that I'm aware of or that have been brought up. So I can certainly see there's been a little bit of upset from some folks, but I have to tell you that there's a lot more people really loudly saying, look, this is what you have to do. This is the right choice. So it's unfortunate. There's always going to be a little bit of conflict in land use decisions. And those that are most directly impacted by it in this case are making their voices heard, which is totally appropriate.
You just turned your mic off, hit the button again.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I'm looking at this particular diagram and I wanted to ask a question about the forest buffer. So that one particular unit who I believe wrote some submissions, is that green area included in the forest buffer and will it remain?
So the concern in question comes around, so the home directly flanking the new road coming into the 5 lot division there, the cul-de-sac. So I believe that the letter originates from that homeowner. And so in their rear yard, we took what was a 6-meter buffer and have now made it an 8-meter protected buffer. That's not the case on the side yard for them. The road right of way would abut directly to their property line. However, what we have, and we have not designed the road yet because this is really just land use. We haven't got into engineering and in fact, there's not an actual, I guess the one thing we need to separate from, I guess, the decision making is this is really about the land use and it is not a development application. So we haven't made a development application. We're just trying to tweak the, truly is just a text amendment, a couple of words in the zoning bylaw. But regardless, we've done quite a bit of engineering work looking at the intersection function. We've done some civil engineering design on how that road could look. And what we've done is we've shifted the sidewalk to the north side of the road. So it's a one-sided or one crosswalk section, so not both sides. So that leaves us with the south side having much more real estate with which to work. We believe that we can keep some of the existing trees that are there. Many of the others would be lost. However, we could revegetate. So there will be the buffer from the actual road itself, from the curb of the asphalt of the road surface itself is about 7 meters to the property line and a further 3 to the single family home on that lot. So it is quite a significant setback still. I can still understand they're not happy. However, we do believe that we can address, I think, many of their concerns with vegetation and some time.
Just say, I am very impressed with this project in its entirety. I mean, it just does make immense sense to me in terms of consolidating park land, the contribution to a community center. Yay. Yeah, it's just, thank you so much. I really endorse this plan. So for all of you, thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. And thank you, Ben. That was quite fulsome. Anything first half to add, or are we happy? Perfect. Thank you. And go ahead, James. Thank you.
Evening. A couple points that I just want to make sure I clarify. When we're looking at the actual proposal today, all I'm seeing is rezoning and some reclassification of density, while the actual language of the proposal talks about land swap, trading of assets, and millions of dollars in the balance. I just want to double check what we're actually endorsing today and what is up for further conversation for further committee and or council meetings.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. So the decision before you tonight, there are 2 staff recommendations, and those directly relate to the land use application. So that's the rezoning application for 499 Royal Bay Drive. It's a text amendment to the existing zone to enable 11 single-family dwellings. So that's the one decision that you have to make. And that is forwarding that to council for readings of the amending bylaw. The second recommendation is related to the city lands property, and that is for the joint OCP amendment and rezoning application to enable the 500 additional units within Latoria South, and to rezone that subject property from AR1 to CD28.
And just to be explicitly clear, that does not include transferring of any land at this point.
That's correct.
The other aspect I wanted to double check when it comes to that intersection, and as you alluded to, one of the primary points of concern with the development on 499 Royal Bay, you talk about the intersection safety improvements, and you highlighted the four-way stop as well as some daylighting of the crosswalks. Are there any other safety improvements that are of intention at this point with respect to that area and why it's so hotly contested?
A little, I think, yes, I can answer that question. So the traffic engineer does outline a number of very specific things that you, I believe, have read by the sound of it. It looks like the biggest improvement that can be done to this intersection is clearing away really overgrown vegetation. So specifically with respect to pedestrian safety, that seems to be the main concern that he raised. I was able to speak to him this afternoon right before this meeting, and he iterated that really some of those sight lines could really be improved with pruning. There was another comment made about sight lines at Wishart in Royal Bay Drive, which is really beyond the scope of this application. He nonetheless confirmed that the sight lines are perfectly good there, from a traffic engineering perspective at least. There's some other recommendations that he's made which would improve the safety and functioning of that intersection. The four-way stop condition is the main one. The new road has been centered on the intersection, and from a traffic safety and engineering perspective, that works very well. So that's a little bit, well, it's shown as correctly proposed. And then the only other recommendations that he's made is, kind of boring stuff around just kind of like those pedestrian bulge outs that could happen where the crosswalks would be that are very common now. So that would further slow traffic down. There's another option that he's identified, which I think needs further consideration by the city engineer, which is speed humps. So speed humps are an option. One of the complaints that I think probably the number one complaint that I've heard from those few residents that have complained is that there is a lot of cars racing down the road, basically racing up Royal Bay Drive to that intersection and not stopping at the stop sign, which are frankly like beyond the scope of what I can do. But he has recommended speed humps as an option. However, many of the residents on Royal Bay Drive have also noted that there's a whole lot of kids playing hockey on the street quite a bit. So adding speed humps might not be a good idea, or might just take a bit more thought than just sort of saying put them in, but certainly are an option.
Thank you. Two more points of clarification before I get into any other commentary. The park access for Promenade Park, there's one trail that I believe I can see just on the north side of like the developed area on Royal Bay Drive.
Yes.
And that is that part of the right of way that's included in the rewording of the land use?
Yes. Well, what we originally had proposed, so there's the 6 new homes shown on Royal Bay Drive, and then sort of at the north at the top of the new green area there is an existing connection into the forest there. We had originally proposed a 6-meter wide greenway. However, as a result of numerous changes as we've gone through this planning process, it's I think finally ended up at 8 meters. So it's quite a significantly wide access point. It wouldn't be exactly as it is today. We'd have to put in a new trail. But it is very wide and provides very good access. And I think the existing trail network was not formally installed. So I think it probably is where it wants to be. Like all the entrances to that park have been, people kind of long ago made paths where it made sense to have paths. So we're really just keeping that existing knowledge in place. So we're reinforcing that access point. We're tying into the existing trail network. So we're creating I think there's 2 or 3 public parking stalls that would be on that cul-de-sac. into the forest in addition to the ones that are in the cul-de-sac bow tie. So we're actually creating public parking opportunity for people wanting to use the park now, where previously, frankly, there probably is plenty on the street, but now there's a more formal, easily accessible trailhead. And then we've also just tied into the existing trail connection off of Portwell Place. So we've had very good connectivity. We initially had proposed additional trails through here. However, it seems that the neighborhood largely doesn't want them. For example, there was more trails around the 5 homes on the cul-de-sac, but those would really cut into that buffer space. And then the existing homes didn't really want trails in the backyard.
Okay, thank you very much. And then the sort of last general sentiment I wanted to pass on here is, you know, I'm not much of a third party consultant, but I was using BC Housing Assessment to look at the value of 369 at Metchosin and 499 the Royal Bay Drive, and then when considering the 4.7 Quarry Park acre expansion, and just looking at the sort of back and forth of all the land given and traded between the two and the general value, I, you know, for the lack of better words, was able to determine that it's a pretty much straight across evaluation when considering the $2 million cash benefit being given to the city. So I just wanted to commend the amount of effort put into evaluating what a good equitable trade between the developer and the city could look like. And so I just wanted to make sure I yeah, let you know that all the work that is put into coming forward today is acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you.
We rely on James for the math. Sorry, Mr. Rosenberg, I saw you had your hand.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment with regards to the road and the intersection. He will have to comply to the subdivision servicing bylaw with regards to the road build, right? So there'll be certain standards within that. And then when we look upon that area, if we think there's going to be some issues with regards to the intersection, then we'll do some warrants as well. And his traffic engineer is well aware of those warrants and requirements. So we may look at speed reduction signs and those types of things before we get into speed humps. The city has many conflicting priorities. The existing sight lines are on us, not on the developer. And it's just one of the areas that we haven't taken care of while we're doing work somewhere else. But this has obviously shone a spotlight on that intersection. So it's probably a good opportunity to have the developer pay for something that we should have done a long time ago. So we'll probably take advantage of that cooperative spirit that Ben seems to exude and get that cleaned up at the same time.
We thank you for your benevolence, Mr. Mycroft. That's great. Thank you. So there's a lot of checks and balances to come with regard to the engineering, and I believe that many of the questions will be resolved with engineering solution, which will be at a future meeting, not this one. Any final questions at all? I don't think I had any. Any final? Anything final from your end, Ben?
I would just say, I think we've been at this for a year and a half or 2 years now since we were originally starting the land swap discussion. So it's been a long road. We've kind of ground it out, I think, and staff and us have, you know, done our best jobs to bring forward what we each want. And it's actually great to see. I think we just have 2 mutually aligned long-term interests, and we happen to be a long-term perspective with the developer. Your Parks and Master Plan came about independently and just kind of ran into the opportunity. And so I think it is the right decision to move forward on this plan together.
Thank you. I think it's karma that I'm here chairing today because I think my name is on.
I didn't want to throw you under the bus.
Some of the motion pieces of the motion that we crafted that got this ball rolling ages ago. So it really has been a lot of work and a long road to get to where we are here today. And I know it can't be understated. My thanks goes out to the staff and to the developers and all the work that's been done in between. So does committee have enough information? Do we have any final thoughts? Perfect. I am going to break this up. If we can put up the motion, please, for the first presentation, which was Metchosin Road. Thank you. Recommendation that the Planning and Land Use Committee recommend to Council that the appropriate amendments to Part E, Latoria South Sub-area Plan of the official community plan bylaw be prepared to enable the addition of 500 units and include the subject site within the sub-area plan area. And that the appropriate amendments to section 10.33 of the Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151 be prepared to enable the addition of 500 units in Latoria South and to rezone the subject property to CD 28. And that the Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151 and 1989, amendment number 215 in brackets 3698 Metchosin Road, bylaw number 2036, 2024 be considered for first and second reading, and that the official community plan amendment bylaw number 13B, thank you, considered for first and second reading. And then there's the rest of the sub conditions, and I'm not going to read through them if people are happy with that. I need a mover, then discussion. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Ms. Stoney is recommending the staff recommendation. Discussion. Seeing none, let's go with all those in favor. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And if we can get the next one. Thank you. I am not going to read all that out. They just kept going. This one pertains to the discussion that was had around 499 Royal Bay Drive, which is the Promenade Park area. Looking for a mover. Thank you. Did you get that? Thank you. And no seconder required. All those in favor? Sorry. Thank you. Say that again, sorry. You.
I'm actually.
Thank you. Hang on, James, just we'll turn your, thank you. And discussion, go ahead. Sorry, hang on, one more button, there we go.
In the statutory right-of-way section, we talked about the 6 meter pathway and how it would actually be an 8 meter pathway, but this one does talk about the Portwell place. Are they both going to be 8 meter wide, or were we just talking about the one pathway?
Just the one pathway was going to be 8 on the north end. So the one to Portwell will be, I believe it's going to be 6 meters.
Okay. Was there language further above that I missed about the existing pathway being dedicated to 8 meters?
That one, there's no language there because of the nature of the plan. So that's just being carved off and given to the city for park. So the only reason there's the statutory right of way down at Portwell is because it's something the city needs from us later.
Okay.
So you get the park, all of the park, the 2.2 acres, including the 8 meters on the north side. And then the SRW is only required because it's like a promise for us to do something later.
Okay, thank you. Ready to vote, thank you.
Thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. And is that it? Somebody move adjournment for us? Thank you. Anyone opposed to adjournment? Seeing none, thank you. And I'll call that a wrap. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Mr. Mycroft and team. And we'll call that adjourned.